So again, were you successful? Let's solve this together. Task number 1 was to connect the buttons and calculate a value, a number, and show not there yet if we're not yet at a result of 37, and show too much if we have a result greater than 37. So first things first, we need to create a view app, of course. And we can store that in a constant, pass in our config object, and of course also mount that app to connect it to our HTML code. Again, here we have an idea of assignment on this section, so I'm going to use that. Now, what do we want to do in that app? We want to listen to these button clicks here, and we certainly want to manage some value which changes with every button click. And then to solve task 1, I would say we want a computed property which shows either not there yet, if the value is too small, the value if it's exactly 37, and too much if it's above 37. So let's add some data first of all, and some methods, because we need methods to react to button clicks, and we need data to manage a counter. So I'll do that. You can name it counter, you can name it count, you can name it number, whatever you want. I'll name it number to mix things up. And I want to change the number on those button clicks. For that, as you learned, we can add click listeners with v-on-click, or using the newly learned shorthand, add click, which I'll use here. And then we could change number in here if we wanted to, or recommended, we use a method instead. Add number is the name I'll choose here. And here I want to set this number equal to this number plus 5, or since we actually will have a +1 button, I will make this a bit more reusable by accepting the number I want to add as a parameter and then using it like this. And then here we can just call add number like this and pass in 5 here and repeat the same on the second button, but pass in 1 here, making this method a bit more flexible and using it in 2 different ways on 2 different buttons. So now we're managing the number, and we could output the number here. With double curly braces in this paragraph, we can output the number, save that and reload, and we would see it here. So that works. But that's not the goal. We don't just want to output the number here, we want to output a result which is either some text or the number. And that screams for a computed property. We could use a method, but for the reasons mentioned throughout the last lectures, methods are not ideal for that. And therefore here I'll add the computed key to my configuration object here. And in there you can now add methods with any name of your choice, and I'll name this result. And in here, I now want to refer to the number we're managing here in our data. And I want to check if this number is smaller than 37, because that was the task. If it's smaller than 37, this computed property will return a value of not there yet. Else if this number is equal to 37, I will return this number. So I will return 37 in the end. Else, and I'm writing this in this very explicit structured way, you could write it with less code, but I want to make it clear what's happening here. That's why I'm writing it like this. So else, if the number is greater than 37, therefore, I return too much. And now we have the result computed property, which depends on our number property, and view detects this dependency and will only recalculate and reevaluate result whenever number changes. So here we now don't output number, but instead result. And if we save that and reload, we see not there yet. But if I add 5 a couple of times, we see too much. Now if I try to get exactly 37, I'll add 5 7 times and 1 twice, And now I reached 37, we see that. But as soon as I go above that, for example by adding 1 again, we see too much again. And this shows us events, methods, and computed properties in action, and that was task number 1. Now task number 2, and therefore already the last task in this assignment, is to watch for changes in result and reset the value to 0 after 5 seconds. So watch for changes in this result computed property, not in the number, but in result. And when result changes, no matter how it changed, I want to reset the value, so the number here, to 0 after 5 seconds. That is the task here. Now, to achieve that, we need a watcher. Again, you can add that wherever you want, maybe below computed, maybe above it, up to you. And we want to watch result, the result computed property, this one. And yes, we can watch computed properties. We can watch both regular and computed properties. So here, we turn this into a method, but because it's in watch, this tells view that we want to watch a property with the same name, so in this case, this computed property, and whenever that changes, we want to trigger the watcher. And that's really important. Whenever it changes, whenever result has a new value, not whenever result is evaluated. So the watcher here will only execute if result switches from not there yet to a number, or from a number to too much, or from not there yet to too much. So only if the value yielded by result really changed, only then the watcher executes. Well, and in here we should set a timer with the built-in set timeout function, set it to 5 seconds. And in here, we now want to reset the number. We can do this with this number and set it to 0. If I change that, eventually result should go back to not there yet, because we set the number to 0, but this never happens, because the this keyword in here is unfortunately not pointing at the same thing as outside of the function, so we can use the same trick I showed you before, save this outside of this function in a separate constant, and refer to this constant here. Now with that, if I reload, what you'll see is that if I ramp this up so that we have too much, after 5 seconds, we go back to not there yet. And of course, this, by the way, also triggers the watcher again. We can see this if we add a console log statement, watcher executing. If we add that, increase this and open up the developer tools, if I reload, you see initially the watcher does not run, but if I now add 5, we see the watcher executes once we change result. After 5 seconds, it's reset, and then the watcher runs again because we reset the number. This triggers result to return a new value, and that triggers the watcher again. Thereafter, it doesn't run again though, because it just resets this again. This hence gives us not there yet again, which is not a new value, and therefore the watcher is not triggered again. So it's not an infinite loop. But this is the assignment solved, and it hopefully helps you a bit with understanding computed properties, events and methods, and also watchers, and how these things play together and work together, and how they allow us to build highly reactive Vue applications.